quite an interesting speech for me because I got email yesterday night asking, by the way, I want to take this. I thought, okay, why not? And I was doing all this stuff today morning. And frankly speaking, I'm not completely sure what I will speak about. Because I'm the best speaker of the EC. And the target speaker for evaluators. I enjoy it. Okay, let's start with this interesting picture. Do you know what is this? Where is it from? And what it means? Yes, the sister island.
Rapa Nui Island. Totem.
Totem. Actually, it's quite an interesting story. And it's quite a sad story. And we will talk about this. It's Easter Island, exactly. Easter Island is the most distant place on the Earth. Closest to it populated space is 2,000 kilometers from it. And on this is yet another island where live 100 people. If we are looking for something more populated, we should go 3,500 miles, which will get to Chile. That's actually the edge of the Earth, the most distant place. This stuff is a legacy of this island, and that's thing which symbolizes collapse of this society. On 5th of April 1722, ship approached the eastern island and find out population of local people. It was something like between 2,000 and 3,000 people. Next, they get in contact with civilization in something like next 50 years, when people from Chile try to acquire from their slaves. Slaves were returned and they brought with them pox, which basically killed most of the population. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was only 100 and local inhabitants. Sad story, you could say. White men did a lot of bad things in Africa, in Asia, so on and so forth. But what is more interesting, archaeologists find out that on the peak, this society had something like 15,000 members. And it was 1 century before Europeans came to this island. Then they dig into it, they find out that during 1 century, this society went through a huge collapse where population just go down 5-fold. That was native people who kind of like their nature. They live on this small island, and they should understand that that's their home. There's an age of you should take something like a month to get to another island. How they manage to collapse their society? And this is a symbol of it. Initially, that society had a cult of birds. So local prayers, they pray birds. They consider them as sacred animals, and nobody could touch them excessively. At some point of time, local variants switched to the cult of ancestors, and they start establishing these statues. To establish these statues, they start spending resources. They have to cut trees to carve these big statues, to transport them, to establish. And they say the more statues we have, the more powerful is our clan, because this society was consistent of certain clans which live together. The more clans start to fight against each other, the more they start establishing these statues, the more they try to produce more and more and more and more statues. And at some point of time, this society simply collapsed. They run out of food, they run out of agricultural land, they run out of food because they simply exterminated all birds on their island, and they turned to cannibalism. They start eating each other. So that happened even before white men came to these islands. So that's very, very, very sad story. But the question for me is, at what point of time they did the wrong decision? what kind of wrong choice they did with their life. And I started looking around us. Can we repeat such wrong choices? And I looked on very simple thing. What is it?
Remote control.
Remote control. It's full of buttons. This button, blue button. This white button, red button, green button, yellow button. It has some very strange things. Repeat, sync. I don't know what is this, but it's the symbol of our society. We have a lot of choices. Most of them are meaningless. If I press this button, oh, it's simply not react. Maybe it react. I don't know. What we need is something like this. On, change channel, increase or decrease volume. That's the real meaningful choices which make our life meaningful. You could switch television on or switch it off. You could change channel, change volume, but all this funny teletext stuff are completely useless. Nobody uses them. And I think that's how we choose our society to collapse. We fill our environment with meaningless choices and we eagerly running for them. But we are quite rarely think about real choices in our life. Thank you very much.